Hey there. Welcome to March On with Margaret Atwood today. So March On is all about marching with powerful women. And Canada has wonderful role models of strength and power, female leaders that are calling all of us to action. And Margaret definitely shines as that example. So last Monday, I actually featured Banoo Zan, a poet who lives in Toronto. And she talked about when she was getting ready to come to Canada from her native Iran, that she read like 13 Margaret Atwood books. So Margaret Atwood is Canada's most well-known and prolific writer. She has written over 40 books, including poetry, fiction, nonfiction, children's books. And yeah, I'm not going to memorize everything she did because she's done so much. And she's also an environmental activist. Huge. Her and her partner, Graham Gibson, their family founded the Pelee Island Observatory, Bird Observatory, PIBO, Pelee Island Bird Observatory, in which they keep track of the birds and their migration patterns. And it's very scientific, which means a lot in getting governments to enact laws to protect the land. So I have a poem for you from Margaret's The Door. And in case you want to see her beautiful face, there it is. How did I get so dutiful? Was I always that way? Going around as a child with a small broom and dustpan, sweeping up dirt I didn't make, or out in the yard with a stunted rake, weeding the gardens of others. The dirt blew back, the weeds flourished despite my efforts, and all the while with a frown of disapproval for other people's fecklessness and my own slavery. I didn't perform those duties willingly. I wanted to be on the river or dancing. But something had me by the back of the neck. That's me too, years later, a purple-eyed wreck. Because whatever had to be finished wasn't, and I stayed late. Grumpy as a snake on too much coffee. And further on still, those groups composed of mutterings and scoldings and the set piece exhortation, somebody ought to do something. That was my hand shooting up. But I've resigned. I've ditched the grip of my echo. I've decided to wear sunglasses and a necklace adorned with the gold word no, and eat flowers I didn't grow. Still, why do I feel so responsible for the wailing from shattered houses, for birth defects and unjust wars, and the soft, unbearable sadness filtering down from distant stars? This really speaks to me of women's conditioning. Children, female children, are trained to be dutiful. And she takes a good hard look at that in herself. And there's a difference between being dutiful and being responsible. I like breaking the word responsible into two words, response-able. So for a long time, I had an inability to be response-able. I couldn't respond to what I saw around me, the troubles in the world, the darkness, because I didn't trust my voice. The thing I admire about Margaret is she does. She is unflinching in her writing. She takes a look at the world around her, the patriarchal system, the capitalism, the killing of nature and animals and birds, and she talks about it, and she raises the alarm. She sounds the bell. She wakes us up. Her work is actually one big call to action. My husband would say to me, "Oh, you're all rainbows and butterflies." And that really was something that I chose to do. My thing was, I have endured so much suffering in my life that I don't want to look at the darkness. I've endured enough darkness. Why do I want to read about it? Why do I want to go to movies? And Margaret says that the reason why she writes about women who suffer is because the women that she has met in her life, a lot of suffering is going on. And so, so actually I ended up inadvertently, because I wouldn't really choose to go see a dark movie, seeing The Handmaid's Tale, which is her novel, and it was a movie in 1990. And the suffering in it, the women are forced to be sexual slaves. It triggered me. And there was other abuse in there too, emotional, verbal, spiritual, all kinds of verbal abuse. And it triggered me and my suffering, and I was greatly affected from that movie. It was very hard to watch. I too was sexually abused as a young adolescent by a family member. And so trust was shattered. The men in my family had the power, and I was a puppet. So you can see why I've been very hurt, and a lot of women are. 1 in 4 women are abused under the age of, before they were 16 years old. And so you can see why I wanted to avoid dark themes and talk of negativity, because my wounds were raw and it hurt to go back into those themes. I wasn't healed yet. So I, throughout my life, I insisted on giving myself the time and the energy, the commitment to heal myself. And I kept searching and being in pursuit of or setting up, growing, setting up a place within myself where I would be comfortable with unconditional love. And I have established unconditional love. I've grown into the maturity to be able to give and receive love. And so I can use my voice now. And I can risk being visible and speaking about what needs attention in our world. And I can even read Margaret Atwood's poetry, which is also very unflinching, sometimes brutal, and feels negative. And I realize I need to go into the shadows to see what's there. So her quote I'd like to leave us with is, "I believe there can be no light without shadow, or rather, no shadow unless there is also light." No shadow unless there is also light. So she is a hopeful woman who is full of light and calling all of us to wake up. And so my call to action for today is read some of her poetry or explore some of her writing. And if you're not ready for that yet, then spend some time in nature to reconnect, to understand your oneness with nature so that you can experience the healing of oneness and find your voice. So, ciao for now. Mwah. See you next Monday. April. I'm going to call it Abundantly April, and we're going to dive into poetry. It's going to be fabulous. See you next Monday.